A Q&A on Instagram and you guys asked me hundreds of questions. So today is going to be a long Q&A and I know you guys are absolutely going to love this. I have some of the questions on my computer, so if you see me looking over here, this is what I am looking at. Hi, my name is Ale. I'm a dating strategist and women's coach here to help you get the love and respect you deserve. So let's get into it. He had a rebound just 3 weeks after the discard. Was it ever real? When you're dealing with someone who is avoidant, they are slow emotional processors, okay? I want you to think of them as emotionally constipated. So it can be weeks, months, sometimes even years before they actually process the severity of this breakup. So do not take what someone does after a breakup personally. Oftentimes he is trying to distract, he is trying to project, because feeling his feelings is too scary, and so he needs someone else to help him fill that void. How do I process my breakup in a healthy way? Discarded by an avoidant ex. I think that there is no right and wrong way to heal from a breakup. Everybody is different, but I can tell you what I recommend to my clients and what I did in my own personal experience. Number one is you need to go no contact, cold turkey. I mean, you need to have your whole family on board. That means blocking him if you cannot control yourself from checking his profile, seeing if his following has gone up or down, checking in on his friends, seeing what they're doing on the weekend, looking at their stories and trying to cross-reference his following with different stories. Don't do it. The sooner you go no contact, the faster you are going to heal, because in your mind, you are still on a partial variable reinforcement schedule, okay? And inconsistent rewards drive addictive behaviors, and so you are emotionally addicted to him. And so what you do by trying to creep his profile is you are trying to keep him alive in your mind because he is not alive in your life. And so the best thing that you can do is go no contact, okay? Number two is I want you to create a vision board, a mood board of what this new chapter of your life is going to look like. I remember when I was coming back to Canada after living in Australia for all those years, I just thought to myself, Ali, what if just for 1 year you went all in on your goals and your dreams? And now this is what we're doing, okay? We got the dream. And so you really have no idea just how good your life can get when you decide that you are going to prioritize yourself. Because I know that if you are in an anxious avoidant dynamic, he was your top priority. He was up here and you were down here. And now that you don't have to deal with his nonsense, with his back and forth, with his hot and cold, you can actually get excited about your life. And you're gonna have so much more mental space because you're no longer worried about what this person is going to do next to break your heart, okay? So first is no contact, 2 is the mood board and the vision board, and 3, you need to take a step. Every day I went through this journaling practice, and I'm going to explain exactly what I did. The first thing that I did was I did a scripting routine. And so I would write out my goals and dreams as if they had already happened. And so I would say, I am so happy and grateful now that I have a flourishing social media. I get to help women get the love and respect they deserve. I have hundreds of thousands of followers, etc. I would write that every single day in my journal long before it ever became a reality. And then I would get excited about what this new chapter of my life was going to look like. So that was the first part, okay? Scripting. Then I would go into gratitude. I would list out all the things that I was grateful for, things that were going well, even if it was something small, even if it was just the fact that I had a roof over my head, that I was taking a step towards my goals and dreams instead of living my life in fear, worrying that this person was the best I was ever going to have. Okay? And then the last thing that I did was I made daily promises. And so I made 3 promises every single day. And these differed from day to day, but they were small things that I knew my future self was going to thank me for. And so sometimes it was just making sure I hit my steps, drinking my water, getting enough sleep, making sure that I got to work on time. So doing all of these things allowed me to create positive momentum, and an object in motion stays in motion. Okay, I want you to think about what you can accomplish in the next 3 months, 6 months, and set small goals for yourself. I know that for me, I did 2 half marathons and then I signed up for an ultra marathon. And so just training for these races gave me something to look forward to because I was challenging myself and I was rebuilding my identity, an identity of someone who kept her promises, someone who was working towards her goals and dreams. I want you to understand that there are days when you're going to feel like you have made zero progress, where you're hurting, where you're left with questions, because if you're healing from an avoidant, chances are they didn't give you the closure and clarity that you felt you needed to move on. But guess what, baby girl? Closure is not something that you get from another person. Closure is something that you give to yourself by closing the gap between where you are right now and where you need to be. So focus on those things and let me know how you go. Next question. Do avoidant men ever come back? Yes, they do. But oftentimes it's not for the reason that you want. It's not that they had this come to God moment. It's not that they thought, oh my God, this woman is the love of my life, I better go get her. No. Oftentimes, it's because they failed to replace you with the women they were so certain were better than you. Or if they were successfully able to replace you, that woman ended up disappointing him. And so now he wants to go back. Now it's like he's this little dog that wanted to be off of his leash because he felt so suffocated by you, and then you let him go, and then now he wants back into the house. And so I want you to ask yourself, do you want to let this dog back into your house? How do I create space for a man to miss me? Men thrive with uncertainty, especially avoidant men, because remember, avoidants prioritize their independence and their autonomy. And so when you can finally give them some space to breathe and feel like they are free, that is when they want to close the gap and come closer to you. But they cannot take a step towards you when you are constantly closing the gap, when you're constantly taking the initiative. Because I want you to remember that how it starts is how it will continue. And so don't reinforce a dynamic that you can't maintain. And so if you want this man to chase you, to crave you, you have to be willing to take a step back and emotionally regulate the part of you that freaks out, that thinks, oh my God, what if he doesn't show up for me? What if he doesn't close that gap? Baby girl, you had an entire life before this man, and you're gonna have an entire life after him. And so when you are able to emotionally regulate and feel calm and confident in your own skin by yourself, that is going to make you a magnet, because so many people, they cannot be by themselves. And so if you are able to show him that you have that capacity, not only is it very attractive, but it's also going to help the dynamic, because when he closes that gap, that is what reaffirms to him that he likes you and he wants to be with you. But so often, these high-performing women that I coach, they are so hyper-vigilant that they never actually know if their partner is choosing them or if they are just with them out of convenience. When you're able to take that space, that's when you know this man is trying to hunt you down. He wants to win you over because he wants to be with you for real. He's not just with you out of convenience. Why is it better to be the one that got away than the one who stayed and who he changed for? When you are the one who stays, it's not sending the message you think it is. You think it's sending the message to him that you are just a ride or die and that you are the person that he should build a life with. I want you to remember that the most attractive trait a person can possess is self-respect. And so it is the attitude you have about yourself that another person is going to adopt. And so you see this as strength and empathy. He sees it as pathetic and needy. And he thinks, wow, this woman will just take whatever. And so what incentive do I have to treat her better when she's already accepted all of this? And so he actually ends up devaluing you in his mind. And so he goes on and he does even worse things. And so my best recommendation to you is to walk away after the first red flag, after the first betrayal. Cut him at his knees so that you can still walk away with your dignity and self-respect intact and go and be with the man who hurt you the first time. Next question, why do we always have to play mind games with men? These aren't mind games. I want you to start to think of this as a strategy. Okay, there's a strategy you use every single day. There's a strategy you use when you're going to work. There's a strategy you use when you want to make a recipe, you want to bake a cake. And there's a strategy you use when you want to build a meaningful relationship. And so there are obviously toxic things that you can do, but when you are living your life intentionally and you're making yourself and your purpose the main focus of your life, you are naturally going to draw positive things to you. But it's just important to remember that new outcomes require new inputs. And so insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And so if what you're doing is working for you, then do it. Go ahead. But something tells me that if you're watching my videos and if you're coming across my For You page, it's not working. And so now it's time to think differently and act differently so that you can attract the life that you want. Next question, what was the biggest turning point after your breakup and how did it happen? I left Australia for the first time. I had a goal, I had a dream of returning to Sydney 1 year later, a completely new woman, a woman that was working for herself, who had made her dream a reality in the best shape of my life. And I wanted to run an ultra marathon. This was the first time I had ever done this. And for me, it was just so poetic to return to the place that broke me just 1 year prior and to complete something that was so rigorous and that was so physically taxing. And so it was October 26th, 2024. So this was almost 1 full year after the day I realized that I needed to end this relationship after disclosure day. It was that day because there were so many emotions that had gone through my mind and so many months of preparation. For me, it felt like a video game. And this race was my closure. This race was my final boss. Because to me, completing this race was a way for me to show myself that I can do anything that I set my mind to, and that this is just the beginning. And so that day was probably one of the happiest days of my life. And I actually have an ultra marathon in about 10 days. And yeah, I would say that was the biggest turning point because for me, it brought up so many emotions. It reminded me of where I started just 1 year prior. I had to run past the place where I had gotten engaged and I wasn't expecting that. And it was just so hard. And anybody who has done a race like this knows that you can get injured at kilometer 20 and you still have 60 more kilometers to go. And so for me, it was just a very beautiful metaphor for life, that if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you can go so far, and that no pain lasts forever. And so, yeah, I would say that was my biggest turning point. It made me so excited for the future. I remember, the last 10 kilometers thinking to myself, wow, just 1 year ago, I thought my life was over. I thought I was finished. But now, I feel like I'm just starting. Next question, how do you fully accept them not wanting us? When a person rejects you, sometimes it's not even that they're rejecting you, especially early on in dating. When you're dating someone and you've only known them for a couple weeks, what they're rejecting is the movie trailer. You ever watch a movie trailer and you think you wouldn't like that movie, and then you end up watching that movie later on and you think, wow, this is actually an incredible movie. Exactly. So this person is rejecting who they think you are, not who you actually are. And sometimes the reason why people reject you is because they're actually rejecting the version of themselves they would have to become to keep a woman like you. Sometimes they can't afford you. I'm not just talking about financially, but sometimes emotionally. When you are emotionally available, when you are a woman who knows who she is, knows where she's been, and knows where she's going, sometimes that can be very threatening to a man who is still trying to find his footing and figure out what he wants to do with his life. I want you to kind of think of it like food as well. In Sydney, they have some world-class oysters, and I don't like oysters, okay? But there are people that come from all over the globe that go to Sydney just to have those oysters. But if I was in Sydney again, that wouldn't even be a top priority for me. So think of it like this. Sometimes when people reject you, when they don't want to be with you, it's not that it has anything to do with you. It just means that you haven't found your people. I'm going to wrap this video up here because I do have a session in about 15 minutes, but I'm so happy to be back on YouTube, back posting long form content. If you like this video, if you like this Q&A, comment below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.